Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and £1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.
Hi there, a warm welcome to the Racing Post Football Postcast. I'm Bruce Millington, and joining me this week to discuss a great weekend of Premier League action, Mark Langdon and Dan Childs, and we're also delighted to have with us from Paddy Power, Malachy Rooney. Okay, so we've got loads and loads of really good stuff. The Premier League resumes. We will be looking at that. We'll look at some of the value bets further down the league and right across Europe, and particularly the Milan derby on Sunday with our resident Milan fan Malachy. Okay, it was International Week last weekend. Some really good stuff actually, a lot better now that it's Nations League rather than friendlies. And they will feature, the International Fair will feature in our 6 questions, which we'll start off with 2 each, and then the lads get to answer the one they wish they'd been asked. Langer, we'll start with you. What did you learn from Spain versus England?
I think maybe that the 4 at the back actually is the way for England to progress. I understand why he did play with the 3 centre-halves at the World Cup, because he didn't really have a left-back because Danny Rose wasn't fit, and there were doubts over Pickford, so they wanted to protect him, and over the centre-halves. And yeah, I can see why he did it, but the team looked much more threatening going forward. You know, even though they scored goals at the World Cup, it was mainly set pieces, and this was a much more threatening way of playing, with Rashford and Sterling playing as narrow forwards and Kane dropping in deep and causing a lot of problems. And you know, you still had I almost 3 at the back, in that Dyer when needed, Dyer could step in and make it 3 centre backs.
Were you impressed, Mark? I thought it was about as good as I've ever seen England play.
It was it wasn't quite sort of Germany 5-1 and Holland 4-1, but it wasn't far off it really. No. It was a really good. I mean, particularly the first half, obviously, but even the way that they limited Spain in the second half, and Spain were taking it very seriously, no doubt about that. And I like Chilwell at left back. Hopefully he can sort of stick around now. It was just a really good performance. You know, Ross Barkley did something impressive, which doesn't always happen. It was really good.
Yeah, it was. Really, it was excellent. Okay, Dan, you're my go-to man for the Nations League in terms of what happens. I'm aware that we're often running with this, but I don't quite know what happens next. So the 2 parts to your question are: what happens next in terms of the format, and who is the value? And before you answer that, Malachy, do Paddy Power have some latest prices on the UEFA Nations League?
Yes, so France are now into favourites at 9-4. Belgium follow them at 3-1. Spain are 7-2, followed by Portugal at 6-1. England 10s, Italy 25s, Switzerland 28s, and Croatia and Netherlands are 66s.
Okay, so Dan, what happens next, and then who will end up winning it, and how?
Well, what happens next? You've basically got the 4 group winners from League A will go through to next summer's tournament. What could be interesting is who's going to host the tournament. At the moment, 3 of the teams in the same group have applied. Those are Italy, Poland and Portugal. They've applied to host the tournament. Portugal are actually dominating that group at the moment. Now, Spain have appealed as well the decision, and have lodged an interest in hosting as well. But Portugal, if it stays the same, and Portugal are dominating that group and they get through, that 6-1 to me sounds a good bet. I mean, They've bossed their group despite Ronaldo not even being involved. He hasn't played in either of the 2 games, so you would imagine if they get to the finals that he would put himself forward and play. So they've shown there's a bit more depth there. People like Bernardo Silva have taken more responsibility, come to the fore, and I just feel that there's a little bit of value there with Portugal. England, I mean, a lot of it depends if they can get out of the group. That's not such a fanciful prospect now. I mean, you've got Croatia playing Spain first, and that helps England in a way, because Croatia go into those last 2 games knowing if they win the 2 games, they would win the group. So there's a lot riding on that for Croatia. Spain have got to go there and win. And if they do that, then they win the group. But if not, then it would all go down to the last game at Wembley. So it's a good chance for England. That 10-1. Might not be such a bad price as well, but Portugal would be my pick.
Are you a fan, Dan, of the chance?
Oh, massively, yeah. I mean, it's just, the difference from friendlies, which is, are so tedious, multiple substitutions. And you've only got to watch the game, England against Spain in the week to see what the difference is between a friendly game and a competitive match. It was lots of good football. There was an edge to it. A few tasty tackles going in. It was just great to watch.
It was good, wasn't it? Malachy, the big game for you this weekend. You are a Milan fan, and they play Inter at the San Siro on Sunday. Give us an update on how Milan are getting on and how they will go this weekend.
So Milan are a bit of a peculiar team because I think I always anticipate more from them than I get, but they have hit a little bit of form now recently. They're unbeaten in 8 games, won both their matches in the Europa League, dropped points in 3 matches that they should have won really against Cagliari, Atalanta and Empoli, I think the other game was. But in the actual matches themselves, they've performed very well, and I think the attacking football that they're playing is quite exciting, so it's a change from previous years. And it's interesting just in the build up to the derby as well, and after so many failed managerial appointments of ex-players like Seedorf and Inzaghi, I've never seen a team just constantly player after player coming out saying how much they love the manager and how much Gattuso is responsible for the turnaround and stuff. So, I mean, there's plenty of harmony in the camp, and when you've got Higuain in top form and Suso playing out of his skin as well, you've always got a chance. So I'm quite optimistic for the game for Sunday night.
Are you going over for it?
I'm not going over for it. No. I'll just make it to the pub for it though, and that'll do me.
Good luck with that. Mark, lots of relegation battles in the Premier League this weekend. Which 3 teams are going down?
I think Cardiff and Huddersfield have got it all on now. I mean, and you have a look at the odds, and it would suggest that as well, really. And I'm not quite
as bad as each other.
I don't think Huddersfield are quite so bad. But they just haven't been scoring any goals, and that has sort of the second half of last season, that was a problem as well. I think as far as Cardiff are concerned, it's just both boxes. They're just being exposed really in both boxes. In terms of the third team, that is a really interesting battle. I mean, I think Burnley would be of interest to me because I've seen their... You have a look at their stats, and I know
they've had an easy start.
And I know they've defied the stats previously, but I'm always wary of teams that continually do that, and they would, I think, have to be of some interest. Definitely, their season started, back in the summer as well, before everyone else's. You wonder if they'll run out of legs.
Historically, that does catch up.
I think it might do. So, I mean, I'm just assuming that Newcastle will get out of it, and just because of Rafa Benitez, and that could be a dangerous thing to just assume. So I mean, they've also got to be thrown into the mix, and your boys also.
We've got a horrible run.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised if Palace were sort of short of price at Christmas. But
massively, I totally agree.
What I would say is that I still would back them to get out of it. If you've got Zaha in your team, when Benteke comes back, that's something that Burnley haven't got.
Yeah.
So maybe Burnley.
But yeah, we are a good trade because I think the next 5 games are Everton away, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, Man United.
It's tough.
Have we got latest relegation betting, Malachy?
Yeah, so Cardiff are the favourites to go down at 1-5. Huddersfield are next in the betting at 1-3, and then it's a bit closer. Burnley are 15-8, Newcastle 2-1, Fulham 2-1, Southampton at 4-1, Brighton and Palace both 6s, and it's 10s bar.
Okie doke. Dan, what's your favourite Premier League kit this season? Home, away, third, whatever.
Oh, God.
What?
I'm struggling. I don't like Spurs kit. I didn't like it when it first came out. I can tell you probably easy the ones I don't like.
The trouble with the Spurs kit is because it's got that blue stripe, they all look like Lee Cattermole, don't they? All look like they've got the shorts pulled up ridiculously high.
And it looks even worse when in Europe, because Spurs have always had the tradition of wearing all white kits in Europe, and then you've got this silly blue bit between the two. But the Watford one's growing on me. That's the one I'm seeing every home game. The Watford home. I was outraged in the summer because it was obviously a change from the yellow shirt to yellow and black stripes. Changing the home shirt that's been there for years. But Joseph, likes it straight away. So
and nothing else caught the eye. No,
nothing. I'm absolutely in love with. No. I must admit. Yeah.
I've got a few.
Everybody's very critical of the Chelsea. The Chelsea
what
socks, I think. Don't know. I just and there was outrage when they played Southampton at the Chelsea socks.
Oh, they jar with the rest of it, don't they? Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, that went well. Malachy, give us an anti-post tip. I know you're a man who always keeps his eye on the anti-post market. If you're having a fresh position today and looking for a bumper payout come May, who would we go for?
In any league?
In any league, any competition. I was going to say any sport, but keep it football.
I've already backed Middlesbrough before the season started in the Championship, but I think that an interesting bet now would be Sheffield United. If I had to change course, West Brom have been the best team overall, I suppose, in terms of attacking quality, and then Middlesbrough and Leeds are so prone to just dropping silly points needlessly. Brentford have done that several times as well, and I know they've changed manager. But Sheffield United are just kind of going a little bit under the radar. I think a former podcast man, Ed Quigley, was talking about them earlier on the season. He was kind of ignored a little bit. But if I had to restructure my position in the Championship, I think Sheffield United would be the team I'd go for now. It's around 6-1, 13-2 mark.
Lovely stuff. Excellent. Yeah, someone else I know who's a very, very good judge told me to keep Sheffield United on the side. I heard from Ed Quigley the other day. He's working in Holland. Hi, Ed, if you're listening. Mark, which question are you going to answer?
I think the Nations League value won, and I was looking at Belgium. I think Belgium are. I think that they're almost through. I mean, they've got a little bit of work to do, but I don't expect Switzerland or Iceland to cause them too many problems. I think we've seen with the teams that they've selected that they are very serious about winning a competition before this golden generation sort of just fades away a bit. And this is without Kevin De Bruyne. Now they're without Vertonghen, but I think come next summer,
without Thierry Henry as
well. Yeah, I mean, how will they cope? But I think come next summer, you don't know who's going to be fit, but I'm assuming I think you've got to assume that the big guns will be available. And I think France are kind of, because they've won the World Cup, there's a little bit of arrogance just come into them, and I thought they were a bit lucky to beat Germany in midweek. I think it was a Tuesday night, wasn't it? And I'm not sure that they'll be absolutely gagging to win it, and I think that they're playing with this relaxed attitude, and we've seen them concede goals, and obviously at the World Cup it was very defence-minded and then nick a victory, and that's how they did for Belgium in a very close semi-final. I think if it comes to sort of them doing that, say next summer, I think that they're vulnerable, and I like Belgium. Yeah, I think they'll go well. I think they'll win it.
Favourite kit?
No, I'm a bit like Childsy, Bruce. I don't really follow the kits.
You're always a go-to kit man. You're always good for a chat.
No,
have you seen the Liverpool purple? I think they call it deep violet. That's nice.
Is it? I don't. None of registering anyway.
Okay.
A bit like Dan, there's ones you don't like, but then none that I really like.
Man City away, it's like one of them Sunday League ones where the white shirts have got washed, didn't they?
Oh, is it? What is it? An off-white?
Very faded pink, isn't it? But
really?
It looks like your Sunday League kit that's gone in with a red sock.
Oh, there you go. We're getting some life out of this conversation. Dan, which question are you going to take?
I'm going to go for the anti-post one. I mean, I think about similar price to Sheffield United. I think they're 6-1 or 13-2 is Leeds in the Championship. Now they're 2 points off the top at the moment. They've done it with quite a few injuries, actually. I mean, two of you could argue their best players, Pablo Hernandez, who's the real creative spark, and Kemar Roof, the top scorer, both been out for the last probably about the last month or so, and they've still kept up there. And those two players are back now this weekend. Bamford's been out long term as a striker they brought in, but if they can just bring another striker in January, which I think they will do, their football, I've watched them quite a few times, and they're such a good side, really press.
After the game against Brentford, I watched a fair bit of that.
That was a great game. Two really good sides. I wouldn't rule Brentford out as well, despite the managerial change. I think they've got a real chance of automatic promotion as well in a tight league. But
Championship's really fascinating this year. No one's grabbed hold of it yet.
Well, I think the team that's grabbed hold of the betting is West Brom, but because they're scoring so many goals and they've got names that you recognise, Gael, Rodriguez up front. I'm not so sure about West Brom. They're conceding a lot of goals, giving up a lot of chances, and I don't think they deserve to take as much of the market up as they are, and that leaves value elsewhere.
In one of the papers as well, they're saying that Harvey Barnes is going to be recalled by Leicester in January, which I mean would be a big blow for West Brom.
He's the key link, to supply those two strikers who I just mentioned. So, yeah.
Jolly good. So it's Leeds for Dan. Maliki, which question are you going to answer?
I'll go with the relegation one. So actually just what Mark mentioned about Newcastle, I fancy Newcastle go down, and the only thing that I think could keep them up is Benitez, and I just wonder, will he still be there towards the end of the season if things are going that badly? I mean, I know there was problems in the background with funding and also disagreements with Mike Ashley, and there is the other side of it that I think he really enjoys living there and stuff, and he is quite connected with the club, and he loves the club, and he stayed obviously when they dropped down. But if they lose him, early into 2019. I don't think he'd ever get sacked, but if he does decide to walk away in January, February, March, like they could be in serious trouble. And I mean, I know it's early yet to be saying they've only got 2 points, and they did have some tricky games, but even their collapse against United before the international break, it doesn't look to me like a team that's solid together or that wants to be going to play the tough games. I just think if it comes down to a scrap, I don't know if they have the heart for it. So I think them, along with Huddersfield and Cardiff, there is a lot of competition there, and some teams can pop up with 5 or 6 wins and 10 game stretch, but I think Newcastle are one that could go down.
I think you're being quite harsh, you two. I'm not sure they're that bad, Newcastle.
One thing I'll mention, though, just quickly in support of that argument, though, is that I remember Palace last year, after they lost the first 8, they were odds on, weren't they, to go down after that. Yeah. Now, Newcastle have only got 2 more points than that, and they're quite a bit bigger price. So if you look at those situations, maybe there is a bit of value there.
OK, I will stop arguing if all you three have got the opinion, because you know a lot more about it than I do. Let's look at the weekend games, and we'll start with the juiciest fixture of them all. At 12:30 on Saturday, Stamford Bridge, Chelsea, Man U. Chelsea favs here. Maliki, what's the latest match betting?
Yeah, so Chelsea are rightly favs at 8-11. The draw is 11-4, and United are underdogs at 4-1.
Man United 4-1, Mark. How the mighty have fallen, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I think they deserve to be
100-1 for the title.
Yeah, well, I mean, you just wouldn't back that, would you? I mean, I think they deserve to be 4-1, and if they weren't called Manchester United, they may even be a little bit bigger. There is always that nagging doubt that Pogba could turn up, Lukaku could do this, Alexis could do that. Mourinho can set them up, but I mean, it's just been going on for so long that you just have to wonder whether they just are what they are. And that second last season was a complete fluke. On expected goals, they were like 6th. And interesting that Mourinho could see that. He knew that defence needed improving because De Gea couldn't keep saving them, and he wasn't backed in terms of bringing in a new centre half. I think Chelsea are. I'm not saying they're great value, but I think that they fully deserve to be 8-11.
Is it a park the bus job for Mourinho?
I think it probably will be, because if he attacks, that defence isn't good enough. The 3 games they've lost this season, they conceded 3 goals to Tottenham, to Brighton and to West Ham. And then I'm looked at, they've lost 6 of their last 7 trips to Stamford Bridge anyway, even when they were a decent team. And Chelsea have had quite an easy start. They've played 5 of the current bottom 6, so maybe we shouldn't be that amazed that they're unbeaten. But they did beat Arsenal. They drew with Liverpool in a high-quality game. And Hazard's just unbelievably good at the moment. 7 goals and 3 assists in 578 Premier League minutes. I don't see who in that Manchester United team stops him. And I know he's tried Herrera to man-mark him a couple of times. It hasn't really worked at Stamford Bridge. And I know he was very kind to Mourinho, Hazard, the other day, saying he wouldn't mind working with him again. But I'm sure he wouldn't mind sticking the knife in as well.
Absolutely. So Chelsea for Lango. Dan, who do you think will win this?
I think the prices are about right. I mean, you're looking at Chelsea 4-6. I think they deserve to be that price. I think it's one of these games where you've got to kind of manufacture a bet if you think the match result prices are right. So I think when I watch Chelsea this season, I've been very impressed by them going forward, but I always think they're liable to concede. They do give up, quite a few chances. So I think United may get on the score sheet here, especially if Chelsea can score early. United are going to have to come out and attack then. And United have scored, for all their woes, they've scored in 8 of their 9 domestic matches this season. The exception was the 3-0 against Spurs, when they actually did have a lot of the game and create a lot of chances as well. So they have got threats on the pitch. I think they might score here, but I just think Chelsea are by far the better side and they'll win the game. So for me, Chelsea to win and both teams to score 5-2.
And Mal, what's your fancy?
Yeah, I'm kind of with the lads here as well. I think Chelsea are too strong for United. It's kind of a bit of a stay of execution for Mourinho to come back against Newcastle. But I mean, it only masked some of the glaring issues that they had to be 2-0 down as well at home against the potential relegation team. They shouldn't be singing joy just because they come back and beat them. If that was Ferguson that was managing, I know people always revert to Ferguson, but he would have been absolutely furious after the game that they were ever 2-0 down. But Chelsea have hit the ground run as well, and Sarri has worked his magic quicker than most people expected. I think they did have some tricky games as well. They did play Liverpool twice, if you count the cup game, and they hosted Arsenal as well, and the derby against West Ham was away, I think. But they're not necessarily the easiest games, but there's so much quality there, and their midfield trio are going to be too strong for United regardless of who is lined up against them. I think it's interesting. I was looking back on Mourinho's away record. Like, in his last 14 competitive games away to top 6 sides, his team has failed to score in 10 of the games, which I think is incredible. Like, they've only actually scored in 4 of them. Now, they did score 3 against City and they scored 3 against Arsenal, and that was in 3 of their last games against top 6. But before that, he normally goes to set up do not lose this game, which is fine when he was managing teams that were directly competing to win the Premier League, because that means, you know, you're not giving up anything away from home against a direct rival. I don't think that they're competing for or will be competing for, and also I don't think he can afford to go and play out a bore 0-0 draw either. I think they need to show something again, because he's still under significant pressure to be sacked. So for those reasons, I've gone for Chelsea win, and I also think just with the form that Hazard is in, either Ashley Young or Valencia, whoever starts right back for United, they're both 5-2 to get booked. So if you wanted to wait until the teams come out, I think 5-2 is backable there for a prop bet.
Jolly good. Mark, do you see any flaws in this Chelsea lineup under Sarri? One thing I'm interested to know what you think is the role of N'Golo Kante now, sort of pushing him on. When he started off, everyone's going, wow, he's created him into a box-to-box player, but I'm not sure he's that comfortable in the opposition third.
Well, he's not, but I mean, his main job now is to win the ball higher up the pitch, really. He's not there to score the goals, and that would be the issue for Chelsea, who is there to score, other than Hazard, who is there to score the goals. But yeah, I mean, Kante's job is now, rather than to win it sort of 10 yards outside his own box, is to win it 10 yards into the opposition half or something like that. So I think it's just by evolution he's ended up in them goal scoring chances. He did the same thing with Alan, the Napoli player, who Ancelotti has actually converted back to a defensive midfield, and it wasn't that he did anything special in terms of scoring goals. He just used to win the ball high up and then give it to the more talented players. That would be my concern for Chelsea. Outside of Hazard, have they got enough goal scorers? But I think United have only kept 1 clean sheet domestically, so they look very vulnerable. One
word answer, lads. Where do Chelsea finish in the league this season? Dan?
Second.
Malachi?
Third.
And Mark?
Third.
Lovely. We'll do the rest of Saturday next.
Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and £1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.
OK, welcome back. Let's do the 3 p.m. Saturday games. I will read out the Paddy Power prices and the lads will tell us what's going to happen. Let's start off with the game down at Bournemouth. They're evens to beat Southampton, who are 13-5. It's 5-2 the draw. Dan Childs, who do you fancy?
I think Bournemouth are getting a little bit too short at the moment. I think Southampton played fairly well in their defeats against Chelsea and at Wolves recently. I can see an improvement coming, so I'm going to go for a draw here at 5-2.
Righty-ho, Mark?
Yeah, I like the draw as well. Southampton, the games they've actually lost, Chelsea, Liverpool, Wolves, Leicester when they had 10 men, Everton away, it's actually not that bad. Bournemouth have scored 4 penalties this season, so I'm not sure their good run will last. So yeah, the draw.
2 for the draw, 3 for the draw, Malachi?
No, I'm going to give it to Bournemouth here. I think they've been good form, won 7 of the last 10. You could argue they've played weak opposition, but Southampton probably fall into that category as well. So I'm happy enough to take Bournemouth at evens. OK, 2 sides who are absolutely desperate for a result meet in Cardiff, who are the 7-5 favourites. It's 15-8 Fulham, 23-10. Interesting clash of styles here, Dan. Who do you fancy?
I fancy Fulham. I think they've got better players going forward, the likes of Mitrovic and Schürrle, whose goals haven't really been rewarded with the results because the defence hasn't done well enough. I think Fulham's defence will cope much better against Cardiff than they did against Arsenal, so I fancy Fulham here at 15-8.
Mark?
Yeah, Fulham for me as well, Bruce. Draw no bet. Cardiff's attack, I don't think will punish Fulham's defence, and then Fulham's attack can punish Cardiff's defence.
Do you still think Fulham will be all right this season, Mark? They've got a lot to offer, haven't they?
I think that I think they'll be fine once they sort their defence out. That may be take a bit longer than what I was initially hoping, but I don't think they'll go down.
OK, and Malachi, who do you like here?
I've gone for the draw here in this one. Cardiff lost the last 5, but I mean they played Arsenal, Chelsea, City, Spurs, and they actually were so unlucky to lose the match against Burnley. They probably should have won the game. I would have expected a bit more from Fulham at the beginning of the season, but I think they've plenty more to show. But I just think maybe a 1-1 draw. I've gone for Mitrovic possibly to get on the score sheet as well. OK, we've had 2 competitive games so far. This one might not be. Man City 1-14, Burnley 30-1. It's 11-1 the draw. Could there be a shock, do you think, Dan?
No chance for a shot here. No, I think I agreed with Mark earlier. I think Burnley are a strong candidate to finish in the bottom three. I think the last time Man City played at home against Brighton, I gave Raheem Sterling the first score. I thought he was overpriced at I think it was around 4-1. Well, he's 4-1 again here, and that's off the back of the 2 goals he's got for England. So Raheem Sterling for me at 4-1 to score the first goal.
Do you like a bit of each way on the first scores, or do you always go win?
Depends on the game. If you think there's going to be a lot of goals in the game, then each way. I mean, if it's going to be a tight one, then go for the win.
Okay, Mark?
I was Man City to win to 0, but that is pretty short, so maybe 3-0 could be the way to go. I think it's quite interesting that City have got the joint best defence, given that we expect them to be such an attacking team. They've had 5 clean sheets. I mean, Burnley have scored 3 goals in their last 2 matches, but they've only had 5 shots on target, and those games were against Cardiff and Huddersfield. I think this will be as routine as the odds suggest.
And Malachy?
I'm going to be a bit ambitious here, actually, and I'm going to go for Burnley +1 at 9-1. Now, City could go out and absolutely smash them, and I look like a fool, but I just think if they don't go ahead early enough, the longer the game goes on, Burnley can grow in confidence. And I think the fact that they have had 2 weeks to prepare for the game, and that was pointed out before in a previous podcast, that lack of preparation time was costing them. I just think that Burnley, if they have something to hang on to, they can stay in this match. And the only reason I'm going for +1 is because if they are losing by 1 or 2 goals, I think the heads will go down, the floodgates will open, so it only really stays strong if they're in the game. So might be ambitious, but...
Okay, and just to explain that bet there on the +1, basically it's quite simple. If Burnley don't lose, you win. So 9-1 Burnley. That is ambitious. It's 6-5 Newcastle, 13-5 Brighton, 21-10 the draw. Dan Childs.
I'm just going to go for the Brighton victory here. I think there's huge pressure on Newcastle at the moment. I think there is scope for them to improve, but when you've got 2 points after 8 games, massive pressure from the stands. First goal of this game, I think, will be absolutely crucial. I think if Brighton get it, they'll go on and win.
God, these boys are so anti-Newcastle today. Mark, what are you going to do here?
I'm going to go for, in the both teams to score market, no.
A no, yeah?
Yeah, it's copped in 17 of Brighton's 23 away games in the Premier League. So, I mean, there's pretty strong stats towards that. And
17 in 23?
Away from home.
Stat of the day so far.
And also, in the 2 games between them last season, there was only 1 goal. And I think whoever gets in front will look to shut up the game. And I'm not sure the other team has got the ability to, to fight back.
Okie doke. And Malachy?
Yeah, I'd kind of be agreeing with Dan. If I had to pick a side, I'd be leaning a little bit more towards Brighton. But just for the game that's in it, and I think they're both so poor, I've gone and settled on the draw myself at 9-4.
Okay, if I could put up a tip, I'm very good at tipping on things you can't bet on, and here's another one. West Ham v Tottenham will be the first game on Match of the Day. It will be an absolute cracker. I'm not quite sure who's going to win. The lads are going to tell me. West Ham are 3-1. It's 13-5 the draw, and it's 5-6 Tottenham. Think it's going to be a real ripper, this one, Dan. Going for 0-0?
I am going for a draw, so...
could be a 4-all, couldn't it?
This game for Spurs, I think it often gets overlooked by the markets. It's a really tough game for Spurs. It's
West Ham's Cup final, isn't it? They all have their pearly king and queens outfits and playing the spoons.
It's a huge game for them. For that, and Spurs don't often treat it as important, so that often it's about matching that tempo that West Ham set. And so I think Spurs, often the extra quality wins through, but you got, Dele Alli out, a lot of doubts over where Eriksen will be available, Vertonghen out. I just think West Ham are going to cause Spurs problems here, and the odds on, I can't be having Spurs at odds on, so I'll go 13-5 to draw.
Mark?
Yeah, I think West Ham will draw a double chance. Tottenham have won 2 of their last 6 against West Ham and 4 of their last 12. Now, if you think of how much better Tottenham are than West Ham, they've also lost 3 of their last 5 trips to West Ham, so there is a strong stat against Tottenham in this game. What I would say is I do think it is reflected in the market, because they're going off about the same price Manchester United were, and Spurs are better than Manchester United, but I think the Derby factor maybe is still even more influential than the odds suggest.
2 very pessimistic Tottenham fans in the studio here, Malachy. What's your verdict on this one?
Do you think Spurs will win this one? I would like to be backing them at a slightly bigger price, so I wouldn't be backing them at the moment around 4-5, 5-6, but I do think they'll drift a little bit before kick-off, and if I could get them at odds against, I'd definitely get involved then, even around even money. I think you're right, though. I think it could be a bit of an exciting match. Spurs win and both teams to score, if you can get 5-2 in that as well, but I wouldn't be as pessimistic as the lads. I think Spurs have enough quality about them to win this game.
And the other 3 o'clock game is Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Watford. It's 8-11 Wolves, 5-2 the draw, 4-1 Watford. Dan Childs.
I'm going to go for both teams to score here at 17-20. I think that the Wolves price is a little bit too short. I know they've won the last couple of games, both of them. They actually played a little bit worse than I would have expected. The Southampton game, where they won 2-0, was a lot of chances at both ends. Crystal Palace away as well. They could easily have gone. I fancy Wolves on the day and put Wolves up, but I thought it could have gone either way as well. So I'm not as convinced by Wolves as I was. Watford got a couple of key defenders out, which again adds to the goals angle. Kabasele and Holebas both suspended, but I think there'll be goals at both ends.
And Mark.
I think Wolves are okay to back. I mean, their continuity in their team selection been incredible so far.
Do you think they'll be unchanged again?
Yeah,
ninth time.
Yeah, I assume so. I don't think there's any significant injuries. On the expected goals, they're not even overperforming. They are sort of where they deserve to be, and I think that the loss of Kabasele could be quite important for Watford. So I'll go for Wolves to win.
This manager is good. I mean, they were all 7, 8 out of 10 against us. It was just a professional performance.
I think you can if you put like Connor Cody and say even and players like that and Doherty, if you put them in other sort of teams, put them in Manchester United's team for instance, and they'd look completely lost. But he's got them. He's getting a fine tune out of them because the process is right.
He's an operator. Malachy, how'd you see this one ending up?
Yeah, I agree with Mark there. I've gone for Wolves straight win at around 4-5. I think Watford's performances at the beginning of the season are being almost forgotten now, and in very quick fashion they've kind of regressed somewhat to the mean. But Wolves have impressed me both going forward and defensively. I mean, they've actually been very strong defensively as well. So I'd be happy enough to be on them again to win at 4-5 this week.
Lovely stuff. Let's look at the other TV game. 5:30 at the, what's it called now? The Macau Pine? The Gow Farm? What is it?
John Smith.
John Smith it is, yeah. It's a lovely ground. I had the pleasure of going there earlier this season. Huddersfield against Liverpool. Liverpool hot favourites, Malachy.
Yes, so Liverpool are 2-7 in the betting. The draw is 4-1, and Huddersfield are a big 10-1 at home.
Mark, you go first. Have Liverpool got a few injuries in the camp here?
They have, yeah. It's the old, what they call the FIFA flu, although it's more UEFA now. But Naby Keita, Sadio Mane come back with a knock. There were a couple of players. Salah was another one.
Van Dijk.
So Klopp hasn't given his press conference yet, so I mean we're punting in the dark a little bit there. But I mean I think Liverpool's squad depth is sufficient now that they can cope. I mean they would be big losses, but I think they've got enough. If Sturridge comes into the attack, it's not that big a deal, is it? If Shaqiri has to play out wide, I mean I think we saw Joe Gomez play very well for England, so if it's him and Lovren at centre half, I mean it is only Huddersfield. I was looking at Liverpool on the double result market, because Liverpool in all their wins this season in the Premier League, all 6 of them, they've been ahead at the break, and it's that traditional fast start and then you can't peg them back. And Huddersfield were 2 down at half time to Chelsea, Tottenham and Man City. So also I looked back at last season's matches. Huddersfield had 1 shot on target against Liverpool last season. So I think Klopp and Wagner, they know each other's games pretty well. It's just that Klopp's working, in a different car, and that they'll win easily, I think, here, Liverpool.
Do you agree, Dan?
I think they'll win. I've got a bit of a different take. I just think with the injuries, there's so many of them all at once that, if you're missing... if you were missing 2 of the front 3, Salah and Mane, or if Salah's maybe not fully fit, I mean, he hasn't been quite himself, has he, this season? I think it might just take him a little bit of time to work their way through the game. So I just feel Huddersfield may actually hold on until half-time, and that's the angle I've gone with here. I've gone with draw, half-time, Liverpool, full-time. I think Huddersfield been shown a little bit of encouragement recently. I mean, the game at Burnley drew 1-1. They won the shot count 19-6, and they probably should have won that game. So draw, Liverpool, half-time, full-time for me.
And Malachy.
I've gone for Liverpool -1 at 10-11. I just don't think Huddersfield are strong enough to compete with the attacking 3 of Liverpool. I mean, they're definitely one of the weakest teams in the league, regardless of what way you look at it. And defensively, they'll need to put on a masterclass to keep Liverpool's front 3 out. And the other issue is it's hard to see where they're going to score from. I mean, their best chance to score is likely going to be a set piece, but Liverpool aren't as prone to gifting away goals as they were in previous seasons. If Van Dijk is playing, there's question marks over a couple of players, and I'd like to see the team lose. But I mean, I'd be surprised if Liverpool didn't win this, and if they get 1 goal ahead, I mean, they're just the kind of team, the way they play, they can win by any amount. So Liverpool -1, I think, is backable at a shade of odds on.
Lovely. Let's do Sunday and Monday next.
Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and a grand up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.
Welcome back, Bruce Millington, Mark Langdon, Dan Childs and Paddy Power's Malachy Rooney looking ahead to the live games taking place on Sunday and Monday. We've just got the one on Sunday and it takes place at 4 o'clock at Goodison Park. It's Everton versus Crystal Palace. Mal, how do Paddy Power bet on this one?
So Everton are favourites at 5-6. The draw is 5-2 and Palace are underdogs at 10-3.
I haven't had permission to call him Mal yet. Is that all right, Malachy?
Yeah, that's absolutely great.
Is that what everyone calls you?
Everyone, yeah, absolutely everyone.
Thank goodness for that. Okay, Mark, you go first. What's going to happen here?
I think Everton are fair enough, really.
You were about to say batter us, didn't you?
No, I don't think that. I'm not sure Everton have quite got that in them. And Hodgson teams don't tend to get battered. He's quite good at setting a team up. But I mean, if you have a look at Palace, the only points they've collected this season are against teams that are 17th or below going in to the weekend. There's no focal point to the attack with Benteke out, and so they're just too reliant on Zaha now. I think it's got ridiculous to the levels of which they're expecting Zaha to dig them out of trouble all the time, and you can put two players on him and not have to worry about Palace.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what teams are starting to do now. And you need to find a new way of playing because that will help Zaha. But nobody else is stepping up at all. I was just having a look at the injuries. Marco Silva said before the international break that he thought Coleman, Andre Gomez and Yerry Mina may all be available after the international break. And I think that will give Everton a different look to them. And they already, with Bernard, Walcott, Sigurdsson and Richarlison as the front four that they showed at Leicester last time out, I thought that looked to be their best way, certainly the strongest front four they've got at the moment. And also, Paddy Power only 9-2, but you can get 13-2 Richarlison to score first. He played up front against Leicester, and if he starts up front again, I mean the 13-2 is absolutely bonkers, but I think Everton are fair enough really, and if you want to sort of Sunday acca, I think you put them in it. Yeah,
couldn't argue with it, Mark, I'm afraid. Dan?
Yeah, I'm quite strong about Everton. I actually think Bernard gives them another dimension as well. Watching the highlights of the Leicester game, he's got such a low centre of gravity, a lot of quality as well. And you add that to what they've got, Richarlison, Walcott, Sigurdsson, other players to come in as well. If they sort the defence out, I'm actually looking further forward and thinking if United struggle this year, I could even see them challenging for a top 6 finish. I think they've got that much about them. Battered Fulham 3-0, the Leicester 2-1, great performance. The Palace side of things, I just think that they're so reliant on Wilfried Zaha. I backed them in the last away game at Bournemouth, and I was disappointed with them. I just felt that it took them to go one behind to start playing, and then as soon as they got level, they sort of went back into their shell again. And I just worry about that, whether the attitude's right. There's certainly an over-reliance, as we said, on Zaha, and I think Everton will be too much for him.
Well, I mean, if he's going to stick with the front three of Zaha, Ayew and Townsend, it's a front one, because I mean Ayew is absolutely appalling, and Andros Townsend, Palace fans are singing this silly Starman song about him, but he's been dreadful this season, absolutely dreadful, and I cannot see it. It's doing my head in. Roy needs to change that up.
He's got that in his locker, hasn't he, to be dreadful for months, Townsend, and sort of then do something amazing for 2-3 weeks. So, but yeah, I'm not a fan.
It's a shame. Malachy, go on, hammer the final nail into the coffin of my hope for this weekend.
Yeah, I just be repeating what the lad said, to be honest. To give you a glimmer of hope, the only thing I would say is, even if Palace are a one-man team, I think Everton are still a little bit vulnerable, even with players back. So I've kind of added in, I've gone Everton win and both teams have scored 3-1. I think Palace can score in the game, but I just don't see them winning the match.
Fair enough. We'll move on. 8 o'clock at the Emirates. It's Arsenal versus Leicester. This is a fascinating contest, this one. I'm very much looking forward to this. What's the latest betting, Malachy?
So Arsenal are strong favourites here at home. They're 4-9. The draw is 7-2, and Leicester are 5-1.
Interesting game, this, Mark, isn't it? I mean, you can look at the Arsenal 4-9 both ways, can't you? There's an inclination to say, blimey, that's a little bit short, but then they have gone on this enormous winning streak, haven't they?
1-9 on the spin, probably the most unconvincing 9-match winning run that you could have. Particularly early on, I thought that the Fulham second half at Fulham that they played well, and the class of Aubameyang, Lacazette, Ramsey's goal was outstanding, and the Arsenal fans were saying we've got our Arsenal back just as they managed to move up into fourth.
Yeah, that's exactly. I
thought it was quite nice. But like I say, I mean, you throw in those, like, it's not been that convincing, and you throw in a couple of Europa League victories against teams that you barely heard of, and League Cup success over Brentford. So I mean, I take the 9 on the spin with a pinch of salt, but they are so good in that final third. I was looking at Arsenal to win and both teams to score. I'm probably not the only one that's going to put that up, but Leicester were the BTTS Kings last season, the most frequent both teams to score team, and then in the Premier League this season they've scored in every game. There's only 1 clean sheet. They've got the quality up front, and Vardy will enjoy running into those spaces that Arsenal leave behind. But I think that Arsenal will win, so that looked the obvious way. Maybe something like 3-1 if you wanted to really go for it on the correct scores.
Okay, Dan, what's your view?
Yeah, I've got exactly the same tip. Arsenal to win and both teams to score. I think there's some things to mention with Arsenal long term. I think they are overperforming on expected goals more than any other team in the league. That's worth mentioning at the moment. So how long it can carry on is is a moot point. But I think with the class, there are reasons behind that. They have got class in the final third. Lacazette and Aubameyang against Fulham were extremely impressive, and I just think they're going to have a little bit too much for Leicester. But at the back, I did notice Socrates went off for Greece at half-time while they were playing against Finland last, and he's quite an important defender for them. Holding came in against Fulham, did okay, but I'm not his greatest fan. And you've got Vardy's pace, Maddison, who I like for Leicester as well. They've got a goal threat, so I'll go for Arsenal to win and both teams to score.
What price is that, Maliki?
7-4 for Arsenal to win and both teams to score.
Sounds good, doesn't it? Who do you fancy?
I'm the same as the lads, yeah. Actually, carbon copy of what I was thinking. If I was going to back in the match betting, I would be backing Arsenal. But I think if you're getting 4-9 about them to win the game, it is quite likely they will concede as well. But they've just been so strong going forward. Interesting what Mark said as well about the 9-game win streak. Like, I couldn't believe it when I heard they were on 7. I was like, where did that come out of? Just one of them things. It flew so under the radar. I am a big fan of Emery as well, and I do like the work he does. But for this game, Leicester are a bit of a hit and miss team as well. They can score, but I don't think they can win. For a bit of an outside longer shot, I think there's 11-2 out there on Lacazette to score a brace. I think him and Aubameyang are doing a great job up top, but there is a little bit of getting in each other's way, and it's kind of frustrating if you back one of them, the other one seems to score. But I would be fancying the 11-2 on that if I had to pull the trigger on a larger price.
It's really weird, isn't it, that Puel is seen as a really boring sort of coach, and like this dour sort of demeanour, and he's apparently been under pressure right from the start of the season. But the Leicester games seem to be quite exciting. I don't watch them absolutely every week. So I mean, their fans, I respect the opinion. If it is quite pedestrian and boring, but it doesn't appear that way to sort of this neutral observer. But yeah. I mean, he's clearly sort of been questioned. His tactics have been questioned.
It'd be interesting if Ramsey scores, doesn't it? Because they're twins this week, doesn't it? How do you suck both thumbs there, or we'll see how that one goes?
Yeah. But what a goal that was that he scored against Fulham. I mean, not necessarily that final bit, but the actual team goal was outstanding.
Brilliant. Okay, before we give the naps out, any other bets that you want to mention, Dan, or are you just going to save it for the naps?
For the Premier League, you probably won't want to hear. I think Everton are the strongest.
Yeah, that's enough. That's enough.
Dan's got a long list outside the Premier League.
I've got a big list, but no.
Give me 3 teams further down. Don't need to know why. Give me a lower division treble. Don't give your nap away.
A lower division treble.
While you're thinking about it, Mark, anything else from you lower down?
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of in Spain, actually, I mean, Sevilla are around about 7-1 to beat Barcelona at the Camp Nou. And I think it's a big old price. I always think that the biggest teams are maybe more vulnerable after the international break. And Sevilla are scoring a lot of goals this season, and I think they'll take the game to Barcelona. I mean, they beat Real Madrid. They was at home, but they beat Real Madrid 3-0.
It's fascinating, the Spanish season.
It is. I mean,
imagine we could watch it.
Yeah, well, you can on 11. I've paid me 50 quid.
It's about 2 minutes behind, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Ida Good Johnson just scored for Barcelona in one of the games I saw. But I just think that Barcelona are concentrating on the Champions League this season, and I'm not sure that they are absolute good things against Sevilla.
Ready for me, Dan?
Yeah, I'll go for Brentford at home to Bristol City, Colchester away to Morecambe, and Tranmere away to Yeovil. Lovely
stuff. And Maliki, have you got anything before we get to your nap that you'd like to flag up?
Yeah, I think Juventus are going to smash Genoa at the weekend, to be honest with you. I think the -2 there's 9-5 available, and even with the Champions League on midweek, I think they will go through them. And I know I tip them a lot, or I talk about them a lot, but I think Milan are a backable price at 6-5, draw no bet in the big derby.
You sentimental man. Okay, let's get the naps.
This will not be beaten.
I had a round of golf with Steve Palmer yesterday. He was in good form. Very happy with life.
Excellent. That's good.
Okay, Mark, what's your nap?
It's actually in the Premier League. I've already mentioned it. I think Fulham draw no bet away to Cardiff. Fulham's problem this season has been at the back. Cardiff haven't got the tools of an Aguero or Harry Kane that have been really Lacazette or Aubameyang. These are the players that have been absolutely destroying Fulham. Fulham are a good championship team, and if you have a look back to last season, they won 4-2 at Cardiff, and I think that Fulham will finish convincingly above Cardiff this season, and if they do that, I think as outsiders, you've got to be on.
Isn't producer Adam been all pessimistic? I thought he'd like that. Dan, who's your nap?
I mentioned them in my treble. Tranmere away to Yeovil in League Two. Yeovil haven't won since they had that amazing 6-0 victory at Newport, and there's been reasons behind that. They've had a lot of injuries. The captain, Omar Sawunmi, has been injured and he's out long term. Then another captain came in, holding midfielder Ceci Dalmeida. He's suspended this weekend after getting 5 bookings. So they've also got quite a few other injuries around the squad. Tranmere have had 3 successive wins. They're up to 5th. James Norwood, 8 goals. Second top scorer in the division. Tranmere to win.
Tell me something I don't know. Great research. Mal, who's your nap?
I've gone for League Two leaders Lincoln. They're at home to Cambridge. Cambridge are 23rd at the moment. Lincoln are threatening to run away with the league, and I just couldn't see how you could oppose them in the form they're in. And they're already as short as evens and odds on in places. It's only the 18th of October, like for the actual outright. So I would fancy them to win again at the weekend.
Okay, I will be very interested to see how Dean Smith and John Terry get on at Aston Villa, but I suspect they may be a little short for their opener. Mark, you're nodding.
Yeah,
and so are you, Dan. Oh, good. I'm very encouraged. So I am going to go Swansea at 15-8, draw no bet. Can you endorse that?
I'd probably go, double chance, I think. But
okay.
yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think that Dean Smith will just magically, improve Aston Villa overnight.
No, absolutely.
I like Swansea as well. They're getting a few important players back, and I think they might be playoff contenders this year.
Excellent. I love that. Thank you very much, chaps. That was great. If you enjoy these shows, please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe wherever you are listening. We are back with Paul Keeley, David Jennings and Paddy Powers, Niall O'Reilly tomorrow to look ahead to the fantastic Champions Day card at Ascot. We've got golf every Wednesday and we are back next Thursday for more football, so do please join us for that.
Introducing Paddy Powers Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and £1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.